Oh my God, it's been so long since I've done a podcast episode with you guys, but I am back, I am here, and I'm ready to do another episode. Let's begin. For this episode, I think it's quite an important one. It's about therapy. Now, so if you guys didn't know, I did actually attend therapy around like February, March time, and I had like 6 weeks of a therapy course in a way. Because when I went to my first therapy, they always say like 6 weeks is the best part, and then you see if you want to continue or not, or if you feel like you've improved and you can just carry on with your life, whatever it is. But I want to talk about therapy mostly because I feel like not enough people one, talk about it. B, it's kind of like a taboo subject for some people, apparently. And number three, people think that it's not very helpful. Now, I'm going to talk about my therapy and what my experience it was, and if it was actually helpful for me. So let's start off with how I got into it. So I kind of had this thing that I always wanted to sort out in my life, right? And I feel like I've just been burying it this whole entire time, and I just didn't want to talk about it and nothing. And I thought over time it would, go away. And in some parts of it did. I was able to deal with it easier, but it was still there and it was still bothering me. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let me just go to a professional, talk it out, see what's up. I just want to get rid of it now. So going in, told her all the issues that I'm dealing with at the moment. And first session was like so tough. Like I went in first session and I was so scared and I was so nervous because I have not done therapy in so long. So for anyone who don't know, I did counseling when I was in secondary school, and I did not do any counseling or any therapy after that. So this is the first time I've done therapy since I was a teenager. So I was very nervous and I was very scared, and I actually cried on my first session. So it was quite a hard, tough session, but you know what, it was something that I needed, and it was good to just let it out of my system. So I genuinely really liked the first session, even though it was really hard for me to do. And then it kept on going for like another 6 weeks, and then there was a point where my therapist said it's better if you actually add another 4 sessions to it, so it's 10 sessions altogether. And I would go in like once a week as well. And you know what, like it was nice to actually have someone to talk to. So in terms of this, okay, before I get any further into this episode, I'm going to talk about like the pros and cons of therapy. So I'm going to state my pros for therapy. So my first pro for therapy is that, one, you get to talk to someone who is a professional, someone who actually understands psychology, someone who actually understands from a different point of view and helps you to actually see things from a different perspective. It's just a professional opinion, and they can actually give you some real advice. It's also unbiased as well, because a therapist isn't your friend. Number two, it's unbiased. So with like friends and family, when you tell them your problems and stuff, they're obviously always going to be on your side. They will never actually tell you the truth, really. Whereas a therapist, they will tell you if you've done something wrong, or someone else has done something wrong to you. They will always give you an unbiased opinion, and they'll always be very honest with you, which is sometimes you need the truth. You don't want something sugar coated, which I feel like a lot of family and friends do. Number three, you actually been taught and been given some techniques or some sort of some sort of tool to teach you on how to deal with upcoming stresses or issues or sad stuff. I was going to say depression, sad stuff that could be coming up in your life, or knowing how to deal with it. Sometimes therapists actually do have a few tricks or tips up their sleeves that they can tell you, and you'll be able to deal with it and use it in the future when you do like face really difficult challenges in your life. So I'll say those are my three absolute pros. My three cons would probably be that sometimes therapy is very expensive. Not everyone can actually afford it. Number two, there's so many different types of therapies that people don't really know what type of therapy fits best for them, so it can be a little bit confusing. Number three is that choosing the right therapist. Just because you want to go into therapy and suddenly they'll give you a therapist doesn't always mean that you and your therapist will like get along. Some people don't actually get along with their therapists, and some people actually don't find anything useful in therapy. So sometimes it does take some time. It does take quite a bit of money to be able to find a therapy that's for you. So I'll say like those are my three pros and those are my three cons. How I found my therapist is honestly, I just went to Google. I went to Google and I just typed down therapy near me or affordable therapy. And on Google, there was like a counseling directory and it shows you a whole list of therapists that are living in your area or have an office in your area. So I went somewhere quite close by. So in case I ever need someone or a professional, I can just go to them very easily because they live in the area. So I found one near me and I started having sessions with her around, yeah, earlier this year actually. And I just kept going every week. And I actually did learn quite a bit actually. Like not only did we go through some of the issues that I came to her about, we also uncovered like other issues in my life as well. There was I had a few breakthrough sessions with her, let's put it that way. And I learned so much more about myself. I became so much more aware of things. I felt a little bit more open to a stranger. I I felt like everything that I had planned in my head, I kind of just threw it out the window because I realized they were actually restricting me. And when things get restricted, you get very comfortable. You know, you get comfortable with what you know and you're not growing as a person. And so she was just like, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to, stop always being in this room, stop always being comfortable with your routine that you always do. You need to get out of your comfort zone and do something a little bit different, shake up your routine a little bit. And that really hit me because I thought I was doing the right thing the entire time, or I thought I was doing the thing that was right for me. But in essence, it was actually the opposite. I need to do something different that I don't normally do every single day. So that kind of gave me a revelation that I did not know that I needed. Sure, we also talked about family as well. We also talked about group of friends, and it just made me realize with a lot of issues that I do want to get off my chest and also just deal with because I realized that I didn't just come to her about a specific thing. I actually came to her for about like a whole other stuff. It's like I literally went into that therapy session with Pandora's box that I've never opened, and we opened it together, and it was just so much stuff that came out of it. A lot of people ask me, is like, is it even helpful? Like, is it even like, what do you do? And I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna be very honest. Therapy, hand on my heart, like therapy really helped me. I feel like I changed as a person. I feel like I look at things a little bit differently. I have put less pressure on myself than I did before. But I do understand where people are coming from. Like you're paying someone to talk to you and listen to your issues, which is something you can do with your friends and family, which is true. But with friends and family, they don't analyze it as deeply as professionals do. They don't have a university degree with with a professional. I feel like with a professional, they actually studied this. They studied human brains, they studied human behavior, they studied body language, so they can actually read you and actually get to know you as a person and, find ways that will support you and help you. Whereas friends and family, yes, they've known you the whole life. Yes, they know what you're like. But because they see you all the time, every single day, sometimes they don't notice the small things about you. They're not, you know, they don't have a university degree in reading your body language or people's body language or people's eye contact or people's emotions or sometimes how to deal with these difficult challenges in their life. So that's the difference between talking to a therapist and just talking to friends. So that's why I always say, like, if anyone's going through anything difficult or they are really struggling with something, honestly, don't be embarrassed or don't be afraid to reach out professional if you feel like you do, because it will help you in the long run. You might have to do a little bit of research on your side to see what works best for you, but it really, really does come down to a little bit of research and finding out what you need and who you want. You could also need to look at criterias as well. You might need to think about what kind of person, what kind of therapist would you like? Would you like a therapist who just talks? Would you like a art therapist, so you solve your problems through art? Would you like a therapist who specializes in something? Some of them specialize in family therapy, couples therapy, trauma therapy. It could be all sorts. Do you want a female or a male therapist? Like you got like all of this really does take some time to think about. So it's sometimes worth sitting down and finding out what you want and what your goal is and everything like that. And then a therapist will be able to help you. I know I'm keeping this podcast really, really short is because yeah, I realize that a lot of my podcasts are really, really long. They're like half an hour to 45 minutes. So I kind of just want to keep this bite size. But basically the whole message of what I want to do for this podcast is to not be afraid of going to therapy. Don't feel like you have to hold yourself back or feel like you have to deal with things on your own. It's completely normal and it's completely fine to sometimes ask for help. That was another thing that I learned about myself is that I don't ask for help. I don't have boundaries. My therapist was like saying that I constantly give and I give and I give and I give so much to people that I don't have a boundary and then I don't have anything left over for myself. So there was that, and there was just some things that I had to change my behavior in. And it really does help me out. It helped me. I feel like it changed me for sure. And I want to continue doing it. And I haven't gone back in so long and I want to go back to it. But this is a little message, a little small little podcast message to everyone out there who's thinking of getting therapy or at least trying it out. I do recommend it. I do recommend first off doing a little bit of research on what your goal is and what you want to do and who you're looking for, what type of therapy you're looking for, and what kind of therapist and how much money you're willing to spend. Speaking of money, let's talk about how much I spend for one session. Now, this is probably gonna upset everyone, but therapy is quite expensive. And for my session, for 1 hour session, is £65. It is quite a lot. But for me, I know that was an investment for me, and I'm willing to invest in myself. So yeah, it did break my bank account quite a bit. But I do feel like it helped me, and I did feel like it was the right time for me and the right moment for me to go and get help after all these years of letting it boil inside me. Now it is here. So there is that £65. There are some more cheaper therapists that you can find. You just have to dig a little bit and research a little bit more. You can also do more like online therapy. I know there is one called BetterHelp, where you can actually talk to a therapist online or even just send a little like a text message even. I've heard you can do that, or you can just do it like a webcam online session. It's completely normal. I know two people in my life who have gone to therapy and it's helped them to some degree, but then it's also like they're able to help themselves now. I think it's because they've been going to therapy for so long or for quite some time now that they've been able to analyze their own situations or their own mind or knowing how to deal with their own issues now. They don't even need to go in anymore, so they're now able to deal with it. And there is my other friend who's been to therapy before, but it didn't really help him as much, so he chose another therapist, and this therapist helps. So it does actually, require some sort of finding a missing piece puzzle for yourself and just finding what works best for you. I'm very lucky that I really liked my therapist the first time I went to see her. She was very attentive. She pretty much read me very quickly. She was reading my body language. She was looking to my eyes. She was being very honest with me. She was being open with me. She was she was kind of like reassuring me a little bit, and she was showing a lot of empathy, and she was very supportive. So that's what I wanted. And I wanted a female therapist, and I wanted a therapy where I just talk or we just talk. I didn't want to do anything like artistic or anything like that, just talking. And every week, not every week, but like every now and then, or every 2 weeks or so, she would give me like a little task, like small little pieces of homework. So there was one time she asked me to, She said, okay, to get yourself out of the house, I want you to go to a yoga class, or I want you to go and do this, or for next session, I want you to think about this. And, it would just be like a small task that she would give me. And I would actually do them, and we would talk about it, and then we would talk about how it made me feel and how I felt when I first went in, and how I felt with the rest of the week. So she opened my eyes to a lot of things. So for me, going to therapy was definitely worth it. I know to a lot of people it wasn't, or maybe they didn't find a perfect therapist. But for me, I was very lucky to find a therapist that works for me. So yeah, I know this podcast is very, very short, but I just wanted to give a little message to anyone who's thinking about therapy and you're watching this video right now. This is a sign that yes, you should at least start looking at therapy or looking at therapists near you. And don't be afraid of the taboos and the stereotypes around it or the stigma around it, because, you know, therapy is something that I think everyone needs at least once in their life, just to talk out any issues and go to a professional and get some actual professional help. There's no harm in that, and I don't think anyone should really be afraid of it. So yeah, if you're watching this video, this is your sign to go and get a therapist. All right, well, I'm going to end this podcast very, very quickly and very early because, yeah, I just wanted to give out this quick message, and I really do hope you guys have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are in this world, and I wish you guys all the best. Bye!